You are making lots of trades in your Dynasty leagues right now, but you need to make sure you're making the right trades. Our trade strategy video today will help you sort out which trades you should actually be making for your Dynasty team and how to do it correctly so that you're not screwing your team long term. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. Really, one of the most important things you have to start with Dynasty trade strategy is knowing your league and knowing your league mates. And I'm going to dive into why this is important, because really the context around the environment where you are making trades is going to be one of the most important parts about actually making a trade. Know your league mates. Let's start there. League mate tendencies is really important. You hear us a lot talk about buying low, selling high, going and playing the market, make as many trades as you can, etc. The problem with that sometimes is it doesn't apply to every league, right? Because if you are playing in a league, which I wouldn't recommend this, but it just happens sometimes. If you know your league and you know that your league is not going to be very active trading until, hey, you get back into the NFL season, you're back into September and August, and you're not probably going to be trading until then. This might be a type of league where you maybe don't want to play the market so much, right? You have to be very selective with your trades. You have to make sure your trades are, at least somewhat considering roster construction, at least somewhat considering need. We personally, if you're playing in the right Dynasty league, don't think you need to do that at this time of year. But again, your league mates, you need to know them. Are they likely to trade a lot? Are they unlikely to trade a lot? And if they are, you need to adjust your trades based on that. Like I said, if your league is very active, more market plays are going to be a good idea. More buying low on veterans, more buying low on injured players, more stacking your team with wide receivers and quarterbacks because they're value insulated. You could ride them out the whole offseason. Those are the type of moves you can be making in a more active league. In a less active league, again, you're going to have to keep most of your team construction intact. If you're a rebuild, though, you're going to have to just absolutely hound your league mates to make trades. But knowing your league mates is very important when you're starting to formulate these trades. You also need to know your roster settings, and in particular, how many players you're starting. When we look at how deep or shallow a league is, we've narrowed it down. It's easier to look at it like this. If you are in a 12-team start 10 league, it is a start 120 player league. If you are in a 10-team start 10, it is a start 100 league. We look at it based on how many players each league is starting, and when you're looking at those league settings, you can determine how deep or shallow your league is. A more shallow league is going to be a start like 80 to 96. An average league is going to be anywhere from like 100 to 120, and then your deeper leagues are going to be start 120 to like 150. And so with those in mind, this is going to completely change how you're formulating your trades, right? Because when we, for each blueprint that we do for somebody, for each blueprint that we give somebody, it's completely different than the next one. Because every single trade suggestion that we're going to give somebody is completely dependent on their specific team and their specific league. If I have somebody that is playing, let's say, in a league that is a start 90, let's say it's a 10-team start 9. We do quite a bit of those, right? And this team is really, really good. It's the number one team in our power rankings, and it's got, 4 different plays. It's got 5 startable running backs, 5 startable wide receivers, a good quarterback, and a good tight end, right? Do the math there. That is 12 guys, 12 really good guys that you have on your team, 12 startable assets. In that particular league, what I might recommend is an up tier. People ask us all the time, like, why do you always recommend down tiers instead of up tiers, or when do you recommend down tiers? And that's a good question. Knowing when to down tier and up tier is really based on your roster settings, the depth or shallowness of your league, and then deciding what you need to do with your team. So again, that's an example where we'd actually recommend an up tier. Now, if you're in a rebuild, or, if you're in a start, or a 12-team start 12, for example, so you're starting 144 players, and you have some of the best value in the league, but you have 2 or 3 really good wide receivers. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Malik Neighbors up there. You've got Bijan Robinson up there. You've got Jalen Hurts up there, and then you've got Trey McBride. But then the rest of your depth sucks. Knowing every week that you're going to have to go out and start 12 players, that you've got a very good value portfolio, you've also got some good picks, but you're going to need depth eventually. That's when we start recommending down tiers. And so when we're looking at your teams and telling you, make this trade or make this trade, really the deciding factor is your roster settings compared to your actual roster itself, right? League settings are also important, right? You've got PPR, you've got half PPR, you've got tight end premium, you've got Superflex or 1 QB, and knowing those league settings, they do make a difference in the players you're targeting in your down tiers or in your up tiers. Quarterbacks in particular, based on the touchdown scoring, etc., is going to be really, really important. But again, I want to stress, knowing your league mates is the first step to making sure you are making the right trades in Dynasty. Nathan's going to talk about the second step here, which is knowing your team archetype, and knowing your 3-year outlook. It's going to be one of the most important things when you are making trades for you. You have to have a plan. We go through this all the time. You have to have a plan for your Dynasty team. And so to get, the team archetypes Nathan's going to talk about, to get your 3-year outlook, flockfantasy.com/domain. With your team blueprint, you're going to get that team archetype. You're going to get the 3-year outlook. You're also going to get your positional grades, your buys and sells, etc. and you're going to get all of that in your team blueprint. But with the annual MotherFlocker tier now, we are offering, when you get your team blueprint, you're going to get an updated blueprint for that team every single month. It's our brand new Infinite Blueprint program. We're happy to offer it for our, again, domain annual MotherFlockers. And so if you sign up with the annual tier, you not only get a free team blueprint, you get the rookie draft guide, you will get access to the Infinite Blueprint, which means once you get a team blueprint on that team, we're going to be sending you an updated one every single month, part of our new initiative to try to make sure that these team reviews don't go out of date. And so that's the best way to get your team archetype, to get your 3-year outlook. flockfantasy.com/domain. Code domain annual MotherFlocker tier will unlock it for you. The link is in the pinned comment. But knowing that team archetype, knowing your own team very well is very key to making good trades in Dynasty.
Yeah, and why is that important? It's because not every trade is created equal depending on what your archetype type is. Better yet, not every buy and sell, not every target and asset that you're trying to move off your team is created equal depending on what situation you're dealing with your current roster. What is a team archetype? It is literally in a single word, in a single phrase, in a single idea, it gives you an idea of where your value lies, right? Or what the value status of your team is. So a dual elite QB team in a superflex format, an elite QB / tight end archetype in a one QB format, elite value. You have value literally every single position. You're dominating your league. You have the most value in your league. A wide receiver factory. You have the most wide receiver value on in your league. A well-rounded team. You have value spread across every single position to a point where you're very confident that you're going to be able to make a contending push next season. A running back heavy. You've got a ton of value and volatile running backs, which can pay off and you can win leagues like that, but it's also incredibly risky, right? A hard rebuild's a team that is so value depleted that you're going to have to be in a rebuilding state for at least the next 2 seasons. A 1-year reload is intended to avoid that eventual hard rebuild and just repurposing your assets in the offseason without contention in mind for 1 year, and then you go back and you contend again without having to do that multi-year rebuild. A future value team, which is quite literally all your value in young assets and draft capital, right? So based off of all of those different types of archetypes that we've determined, you have to be mindful of that when you're making deals, because a well-rounded team is going to be trading for running backs in the offseason when a hard rebuild should be literally not doing that. That's an awful idea. You don't want to be investing in volatile assets like running backs as a hard rebuild. You want to be insulating your value while targeting assets that have high value upside. So make sure you're mindful of those archetypes. And we're going to give you examples later in this video as well for each of those archetypes. But we touched on rookie picks, and I think that's incredibly important to note right now, because of all those archetypes I mentioned, at least half of those archetypes are going to have a significant number of rookie draft capital on their teams, whether they're contending or rebuilding. And I think it's important, especially right now heading into the early offseason, to know what you should be doing with those rookie picks.
And it really depends on what type of rookie picks you're talking about, right? And it does depend on your 3-year outlook. It's especially important about your 3-year outlook. I had somebody comment on team review and say, hey, I don't have my 25 first, so I might be a reload or a rebuild. But looking at their roster, I'm like, no, your roster is good enough to contend next year, right? And our number one choice for your 3-year outlook is always contend in year 1. That's like, hey, we're going to win money this year. That's what we want. But the rookie picks are interesting because, when should you be trading your 25 first? We talk about this all the time. If you have 25 first, if you have the 107, you have the 109, you have the 103 this year, a lot of times, depending on what your team archetype is, we're going to recommend a down tier as a trade option for that team. But really, with 2025 first, what we have preached and what we continue to preach is they're going to reach their maximum value for the most part in April or May when you start drafting in your rookie draft. And so usually we recommend in this period from like the end of the Dynasty season in December to April, May, we just recommend holding because it's an appreciating asset. And especially on value devoid teams, future value teams, 1-year reload teams, hard rebuild teams, we're going to recommend holding that appreciating asset. There are, in my opinion, some moves you can make with 25 first. If you're getting an overpay, you could definitely move at 25 first. If you're down tiering and you get a really good down tier option, you're buying low on somebody in that down tier, that's also a good trade to make right now. Your second round picks in 2025, again, this is more short term. They may be involved with buying veteran running backs, right? We talk about some of the trades you should be making right now are actually buying in on veteran running backs, because you see these veteran running backs, some of their lowest point where they're old, they're on situations where you're like, it could be iffy. They may be a little bit more injury risky or or something like that, their lowest point of value, really there's a couple of different points, but one of them is right now. After the season, people literally cannot think about production because production's not going to happen for 8 more months. And so these veterans tend to lose a lot of value. But you've got a lot of solid veteran assets that you could trade for if you need running back help next year. You can keep your value. This is probably my favorite way to build a dynasty team, my number one favorite way, because you can have 2 elite QBs and a solid backup. You can have stacked value at wide receiver position. You don't even necessarily need to have an elite running back on your team. But what you can have are running backs that are veterans that are cheaper, where if something goes off the rails and they lose all their value, you're not out a first or second round pick. You're not even out a third round pick. You got Josh Jacobs, you're out what, a 5th or 6th round pick if he somehow blows up. Okay.
Right.
But guys like Josh Jacobs, guys like David Montgomery, guys like Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara even, James Conner got extended. All of these are examples of veterans that you could be trading for in your dynasty leagues. And so, with our second round picks, this is what we're maybe wanting to move those second round picks for. Also knowing the second round picks are pretty good and pretty valuable in dynasty now. Now, going into picks a little bit down the road, 2026 picks we typically don't recommend you trade, and I'm going to recommend on this video you keep your 2026 first through the offseason. A lot of times, in fact, we are recommending some of the trades that hard rebuilds make are to get 2026 first because they're significantly cheaper than they will be even at the start of the season. Even at the beginning of September, they're going to be probably 25% more valuable then than they are even now, because that's going to be the next rookie draft. You get past this year's rookie draft and all of a sudden those picks, they chirp up a little bit. But especially for rebuilds, when rebuilds start hunting for picks, it's usually a little bit too late. That's why if you're a hard rebuild, we're going to tell you, hey, go get 26 first. You can pay a lot cheaper price than 25 first, but the recency bias that comes with the first that's going to be the next year is only an off season away rather than, an entire couple of years away. And so for 26 first, what you want is the flexibility on your roster to rebuild or contend if something goes wrong or right with your team, right? Don't recommend trading those. Now, I'm going to rant a little bit here, and people who are around me know that this is an issue because sometimes as a dynasty creator, I get on X or Twitter. And should I do that? Probably not. Why? Because seriously, I'm not even lying to you, as a creator, dynasty Twitter is a cesspool. It's awful. It's legitimately awful. It's a combination of people victory lapping their takes, giving bad advice, and basically propping each other up because they're all the greatest creators of all time. And really what I go on X for is to see, hey, what are people saying about the games? What are people saying about this player, that player? And I always get caught up in all of these, takes. And then one of the takes that I've seen on X recently from some dynasty analysts, and this is honestly, this is the stupidest move you can make with your dynasty team. Objectively, I'm sorry. This is, according to how we preach to play dynasty, this is a bad move. With the 2027 first, you have 2 guys really to blame for this. What are their names again? Their names are Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, right? Great wide receivers, great college players. They're awesome. People have actually started looking at the 2027 class and saying, I should be trading for 2027 first. And I'm telling you, it's the worst move you could ever make in Dynasty. Why is it that bad, Avery, though? Why is it that bad? Because you're trading into a draft class that's going to be generational. It's going to be legendary. Yeah, you are essentially pawning your future out 4 years at that point. And you might say, okay, well, if you're playing in 3-year outlooks or you're playing in 3-year windows here, that 3rd year is when they're going to be in the league. Okay, so then you're counting on those guys to come in right away as a rookie and win you a league. And even then, you are sending your value 2 years down the road, 2 years where you could be winning a championship, and you are trading for an asset that will not help you win a championship for the next 2 years. And you have people that are doing this that are contending teams. If you only have this much value on your team, you can't have this much value that isn't helping you win a championship next year or the year after or potentially the year after that. You cannot do that. In fact, we're getting to the point where I'm saying, hey, you may want to hold your 26 picks. We're getting to the point where I might even recommend selling 27 picks because this is absurd. You're buying into 27 picks at a 2026 or higher price. And when you're looking at the time value, if you have done, financial math, TVM, time value of money, when you're looking at the actual value of the 2027 picks now for your team, the buying power, the purchasing power, yeah, maybe they do have some purchasing power now, but in terms of the actual value of those picks, you're overpaying for them relative to what they're actually worth at this point in time.
Yeah.
It's a bad move. It is certified 100% a bad move. Do not trade for 2027 first. You want to win Dynasty next year. And if you can't, you want to win. You want to win the year after that.
And it's a big reason why we're having people kind of go out of their way to invest in 26 picks right now if they're a reload or even a future value team. If they're not looking to compete in 2025, but they are in 26, you're getting the value increase for those 26 rookie picks as they're overlooked because of 2027, because people got excited about Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, and that's about it right now.
Yeah.
And it's not that those 27 picks aren't going to continue to be valued super high and even go up in value the closer we get to that draft class. It's really about that 3-year outlook, and it's about understanding that if you don't at least make a serious push for a championship in the first 3 years of your dynasty league starting this season, then you failed for a dynasty age. That is the lifetime of a dynasty age.
On average.
On average.
Yep.
And I mean, who's to say that your league is going to exist after 2027? You don't even know if it's going to pay off in that league. So then you're out your buyout, or you're out your buy-in for the next 3 years. And you lost money.
It's legit awful advice. It's legit awful advice. Like I cannot stress to you enough. Do not. I'll be done here. Do not trade for 27 first.
Yeah, and I want to give some practical examples, some trade examples for each archetype that we've been mentioning. We've been talking about how important it is to understand what your archetype is, and we'll give that archetype to you when we do a blueprint for you personally. I mean, I don't think you guys understand. Avery and I literally do those from start to finish for you specifically. Like, we personally do them. We personally give you all those suggestions and comments and advice, and we're sending it to you, and we're giving you these archetypes, assigning these archetypes. And if you have a good idea of what your team archetype is, let's start with dual elite QB. If you have a dual elite QB archetype, that means you at least have 2 top 12 around that range, 2 top 12 dynasty quarterbacks in a super flex format, if not more. We have a lot of dual elite QB teams that have even a good backup, maybe even another elite third option. It's a triple, quadruple elite QB. We've seen plenty of those. If you have that much value at the quarterback position, generally what we're going to recommend is that you down tier from one of those top quarterbacks and get more on top at another position that you're depleted at. If you need wide receiver, if you need running back, if you're really, really heavy, we see a lot of dual elite QB teams that are very heavy at wide receiver as well, because they built at the 2 most insulated positions, and now it's time to go invest in running backs. We're a lot more liberal with the way that we're recommending people invest in veteran productive running backs right now this early in the offseason, because they're going to go up in price heading into 2025 when the season starts in July and August. And right now you can get them at a discount, even though they have more contract insulation than they've ever had in the past. You can down tier from a Jordan Love, and you can go get Dak Prescott plus an incredibly productive running back like a Jonathan Taylor. And you could probably even get something on top of that as well. That's just a trade example for a dual elite QB team. Elite value, you've got the best of the best at every single position. If you have a Garrett Wilson and he's your 5th wide receiver, which we've seen for plenty of elite value teams, even your 4th wide receiver, and you're flexing him, but you want more production upside in a safer situation, pay the gosh dang extra second and go get Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Boom.
That's all you need to do. It's as simple as that. Don't be afraid to go invest in 27, 28-year-old Saquon Barkley.
Oh
if it freaking wins your league as an elite value team, as an elite value team, you have so much overall value on your roster that it doesn't matter if you invest in an old declining asset that's going to win you a league. You can afford to do it.
And the other thing you can do in an elite value team that we recommend a lot of times, hey, you have so much value here, go play the market and just go buy injured guys for fun.
Right.
You don't even need to, because you have enough value. You don't need to really increase your value portfolio. But at this point, it's like with elite value teams, the common question we get with them is like, how do I maintain this status? And that's really how you do it. Is just continue to get guys that are going to increase in asset, or increase in value. So well-rounded.
Yeah, so for a well-rounded team, this is generally our 3-year outlook switches depending on how much overall value you can have on this team. There are some well-rounded teams that are really close to elite value because they have solid grades at every single position. They're just not quite at the elite level tier. Maybe they don't have as many long-term rookie picks. So their 3rd year in their 3-year outlook is going to be in question. It could be reload. It could be rebuild. In general, with a well-rounded team, what we often see is that their depth is in question. They're so well spread out everywhere that if they lose anything at any position, that grade is going to drop significantly in the middle of the season, and they're going to be struggling. So in the offseason, we want to be bolstering that depth. You generally can't afford to down tier too much on a well-rounded team, because those high-end guys that you have are going to be your go-to guys that are the reason that you're going to win a championship. You don't want to down tier from them. What you can do is with your flex options, if your flex option, for example, is a guy like Tyron Tracy, who at least this past season, you were able to start every single week on the home stretch, You want to get some more insulation. You want to get better depth that you can lean on, that you can turn towards when you have a team, when you have a couple players on a bye in the middle of the 2025 season. Pivot off of Tyron Tracy and go get a more insulated asset in that range. Go reinvest that and pay up for Chase Brown, or go reinvest that into a veteran running back that has contract insulation like Joe Mixon. Go get David Montgomery. Go move Tyron Tracy for freaking Brandon Ayuk, who is in the same price range right now if you need a little more depth at wide receiver. Those are the types of moves that you want to do. You want to insulate your value when you're a well-rounded team so that you can keep this contending run going as long as possible before you risk entering into a hard rebuild situation. Insulate your value. As a wide receiver factory, again, very similar to dual elite QB and running back heavy, you want to down tier from some of your fourth and fifth options at wide receiver, and you want to go bolster your other positions. As a wide receiver factory team right now, go invest in running back. You can get Christian McCaffrey at a significant discount. If you own Devontae Smith, who is not even the wide receiver one on his own team, down tier and get Christian McCaffrey plus Jacoby Myers. And you would get more on top of that because Devontae Smith is a very valuable dynasty asset at the moment.
And on the flip side of that, we talked about knowing your leagues and knowing your roster settings. If you have a wide receiver factory team that is in a start 8 league, then maybe you're up tiering from some of those wide receivers. Maybe you've got a Jerry Jeudy down there. Maybe you've got somebody else down there, Khalil Shakir, and you can take those two guys and even just up tier a little bit. That's a smart move. And so, it's just knowing your league is going to tell you which one of these moves you should actually make.
Yeah, running back heavy is going to be the next one here, and you want to, very similar to well-rounded, there's a reason that they're close to each other on the DVM, and that is to get more insulated assets. When you have so many running backs, too many running backs, again, we've been advocating that a decent amount of people invest in running backs in the early offseason right now. Don't get too many and risk losing all of the value on your team. If you're running back heavy, a majority of your value is tied into the running backs that you own on your roster. Pivot off of one of those running backs entirely. I don't care if it impacts the depth of your overall running back room. Insulate that value and go get a player, a wide receiver, or a quarterback that you need that is going to go up in price. We love Kyron Williams. We really like Jonathan Taylor right now. Move off of Jonathan Taylor if he's your third running back and go get T. Higgins, or go get Rashee Rice, or go get Rome Odunze plus, DJ Moore plus, and just make sure that you're safer heading into 2025. It's incredibly risky if you don't. Future value, get more value upside players and picks. We know as a future value team that you're more likely than not going to heavily compete in 2025. So move some of your assets that have reached their value ceiling, like an AJ Brown as a future value team, who more likely than not is going to not be ranked as high as he is right now next season, and go get Rashee Rice plus a future rookie pick. Go get Rome Odunze plus a first. Go get Brandon Ayuk plus a first and a second. Those are the types of guys that we want you to target, and we want to see those types of down tiers so that you can just get more value upside, increase the overall portfolio of your team. And then 1 year reload, I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah, so, and I'm actually going to touch on both of these because they're very similar in how you approach the trading right now at this point in the offseason. 1 year reload, again, you're going for value insulated players and upside, right? Upside means what is their actual likelihood of increasing in value? What is their actual likelihood of them taking on a bigger role and then getting a big dynasty value boost, right? Upside, Rome Odunze. Value insulated as well, right? He's a wide receiver. He's a young wide receiver, but he's got a ton of upside. Keon Coleman, upside, right? We love those players for 1 year reloads and for hard rebuilds both. And again, really what we're focusing on making these trades is the next year. Both of these team archetypes are rebuilds next year. And so or actually reloads technically. We're acting like a rebuild with the potential to maybe accidentally contend.
Zay Flowers would be a guy I'd move off of as a reload.
100%. And the other thing you want to do with these two is play the market, right? Because really, that's the only way you're going to get out of debt here with a hard rebuild. But with a 1 year reload, you're buying Brandon Ayuk because Brandon Ayuk is going to come back next year. Maybe he's not as productive as he was because he's coming off an injury. That's very, very possible. But it doesn't matter. You're a 1 year reload. You're contending in year 2. You go into year 2, Brandon Ayuk is full strength, and you've got the value increase, right? And then for the hard rebuild, you're just getting that value increase. You can do whatever you want with Brandon Ayuk long term, but you get the value increase. And so
down tier,
everywhere.
And play the market there. Guys, I have to make a big deal about this because I want you to understand there's a lot of great dynasty content out there. Every single sell and buy and target and trade scenario that we give you is absolutely 100% intentional, and it all connects with our game theory. Like the cells and the examples that we just gave you in this video, the practical examples for every single archetype, we didn't just pull these archetypes out of our butts. Like, guys, we've done thousands of blueprints, and I don't even know if you can see this on the video because it's written in pen. This is where the DVM was born. We've kept this on our table because this is how it started, and it's now on a freaking blueprint. Like, this is our game. This is our game theory that we have spent thousands of hours working on for you guys, and we've kept up to date with the overall market value and how to get a feel of the overall market in Dynasty so that we can give you the right moves to make consistently, regardless of what archetype you have, regardless of what your 3-year outlook is. This isn't this is a hot take, I think you should sell this player. This is based off of what the market is doing right now, we can tell you with really, really good confidence, you can go back and look at our hit rates. Like, we're telling you market moves that you should be making, not just our opinion on the talent of players.
Right.
And that's why this works. And that's why this is so important to get down and to nail down if you want to become a better Dynasty player. We're trying to help you do that when we're doing this.
Exactly. I mean, we could put out buys and sells and stashes and whatever, and
they all connect.
Our stuff, there is a web that connects it all, because ultimately what I'm trying to do is,
it's like the Spider-Verse, but the Domain-verse.
It's the Domain-verse. That's exactly what it is. What I'm trying to do is not only help you win championships, I'm trying to win championships myself. And I did that this year. Like, I had probably my best year playing Dynasty from a championship perspective.
We put our money where our mouth's at.
We want to win our Dynasty leagues. Nathan and I want to win our Dynasty leagues and help you. But like, I want to win money. I want money for me. I won a lot of money this year. I'm very excited about that. And it doesn't mean I'm the best. I mean, like, that's not us saying we're better than anybody else. We obviously are idiots as well. But
we're just telling you everything that we do is incredibly intentional.
I was going to say, as we get bigger here, you might see, okay, maybe they're going to take a trend and just talk about players all the time. We live in the details. Live there. Seriously, we're nerds. The practical applications for making a trade. Do this every time you make a trade. Number one, if you trust an expert, which, some people are like, why would I ever pay for expert rankings? Because experts, I know better. Okay, fine. Then don't. If this is something you do, if you have somebody that you really trust, doesn't have to be Nathan or I, it could be whoever you like, whoever your favorite or most trusted creator is. Check their rankings and see what the trade that you're making looks like in their rankings. Number two, check market value rankings, because as much as you trust an expert, if the market value has you taking a significant loss, and you're not going to want to do that. But checking market value rankings gives you a good idea of if you're taking a value win or loss, which is very, very important at this time in the off season. The third thing, and the thing I tell the most, this is the number one tip that I give new players. Ask a community, join our Discord, drop a poll in there, see what everybody else says. If you drop a poll and everybody is saying, hey, yeah, I'm taking the other side of this trade, that means the true market, not just market rankings, the true market, your league mates, your fellow Dynasty players are telling you they wouldn't do that. You have more buying power than what you're giving up these players for. Don't make that trade. But absolutely post your trades in a Discord. And for Domain MotherFlockers, you can get in our exclusive Dynasty trade channel. People have been popping off with their trades in that channel. The trades are making because of the blueprint and the trade ideas we're giving them. I've seen some great trades. And if you're a MotherFlocker as well, you can message Nathan and I. Like, again, not that we know everything.
And you know what we answer when they message us with a trade scenario? We give them our opinion, and then we always tell them, go put it in the chat. Go post it and see what the market says, because if the market disagrees with me, I'm wrong and they're right.
It's absolutely correct. And then the last thing, ask your gut. Check what your gut thinks and go with your gut, because Dynasty's fun, and we have to have fun playing it. We're having fun right now. This was a fun video. Let us know what you think. If you are a hardcore Dynasty player, you enjoy the Dynasty theory videos, you should have loved this video. Make sure you drop a like, make sure you subscribe. We're not always going to sit here and just talk about, buy this player, sell this player. No, we like the details of Dynasty, and we're going to continue to give you videos where we talk about the deets. We appreciate you guys. Make sure, like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code DOMAIN Annual MotherFlocker. It's going to get you a free blueprint and the infinite blueprint. It's going to give you your updated roster tier, positional grades, buys and sells every month. You have to use code DOMAIN Annual tier. We'll get that for you. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much, and we'll see you later.